My name is Kip Zider. I'm the Visitor Services Group Coordinator for the International Motor Racing Research Center, and I want to extend a great invitation. Thank you for coming today on this chilly but sunny February day. So I want to thank our audience participation, and I want to thank our panel participation in this as well. In order of appearance today, we're going to have Michael Eaton, who's going to be talking about an overall history of MG racing at Watkins Glen. And then we're going to show a little film of the 51 car that ran in the 57 Sebring race. And then Michael's going to talk a little bit about the history of that particular car. Then we'll have Gordy Ruston, who will be doing a talk on the history of BARC, the Binghamton Auto Racers Club, and also the infamous band of racers called Jake's Stables. Dan Fadden will follow with a little bit of a racing history of the beautiful black twin cam that you saw in the center, and then a history of his loving 12-year restoration process to make that car the showpiece that it is today. And then finally, we're saving the best till last. We have 88-year young, the legendary Ted Rounds. Did I emphasize legendary good enough, Ted? I hope so. The legendary Ted Rounds, who was very nice to come up. Ted has actually had seat time in both of those cars, as well as a number of other MGs. And Ted's going to, with the assistance of Gordy and Dan or Michael, I'm not exactly sure who's going to do the Q&A with Ted, but he's going to talk about his very exciting career racing MGs. I have a couple notes about the center. I see a lot of familiar faces in the audience, but if anybody is visiting us for the first time, I just want to tell you a little bit about the Research Center. The center enters its 21st year as one of the world's foremost repositories for the collection, preservation, and sharing of the history of motorsports. Whether it be on a book level, magazines, photos, trophies, artwork, we have it. We have it in droves, we have lots of it, and we get more of it almost every week. From the history of corporations like the Watkins Glen Grand Prix Corporation, the Sports Car Club of America, IMSA, to what I think is every bit as importantly, individual collections of people that have just been interested in motorsports their entire life, either as a participant or as simply a spectator, a fan, like I have. I've been a fan of racing since my dad brought me here as a kid. I never raced myself, but I've been a fan ever since I came here for the first time. We collect it all. We preserve it all, and it's there to be shared. Now, as most of you know, we're a 501c3, so we get no government assistance at all. We are sponsored by folks like you, who give us individual contributions on a yearly basis. We raffle a car off every year, and we also have our IMRC Award Dinner, which will be held in June at the Corning Museum of Glass. Our sponsorship spokesperson this year is Brad Keselowski. We're very excited about that, and you should be receiving a letter within the next couple weeks asking for your annual sponsorship. We urge you to contribute as best you can, as best your budget allows, and we thank you very much for whatever the contribution is that you can give us, because that's what helps keep the lights on here. In terms of upcoming events, let me just make a quick note of that. March 9th and 10th is the Syracuse Motorsports Expo. I know we got a lot of sports car fans in the audience today, but if you're a circle track fan, the Syracuse Motorsports Expo, which is held at the Center Progress Building at the State Fairgrounds, will be held that Saturday and Sunday. That's where all the circle track fans in upstate New York bring their cars out. It's a lot of fun. I'll have a booth there representing the center, so if you happen to make it to the show, please stop by and say hi. Hours of the show are 10 to 8 p.m. on Saturday and 10 to 4 p.m. on Sunday. March 23rd will be our next conversation. It's entitled Open Wheel Madness, and we think it's going to be a good one. We're going to have two columnists who write regularly in the area auto racing news, Herb Anastor and Stephen Bubb. Herb's going to be talking about the board track era of racing, which existed from about the early 1900s to about the mid-1930s. a ridiculously exciting, a ridiculously dangerous form of racing. I've always been fascinated by it, but I know nothing about it. So Herb is going to talk about that. Stephen's going to talk about midget and big car racing in the 1920s and 30s, and particularly how the Depression affected racing in the country at that time. April 6th will be our model car show. We're really excited this year that we're going to have the Rochester Lego Users Group be down here for our model car show. This year it's just going to be a one-day show, just on Saturday. The Lego guys are going to be building 1/8 scale race cars. In addition, they're going to have little kits that are really cool that kids can buy for, I think it's very reasonable. I think it's like $5 a kit, something like that. And they're going to bring a Pinewood Derby style race course so people can build their cars and race them down the track. So we're really excited about that. That's going to be from 10 a.m. to I think 4 p.m. on April 6th. What else am I forgetting, actually? Oh, on the 24th of April is our next trip to New York for the auto show. This will be our third year, and our signups have been a little bit slow up to this point, so I'm going to be sending an email out in the next coming week to people that have already gone on the trip before with us. If you haven't, it's a lot of fun. The cool thing about doing the auto show every year is every year it's new. Okay, so it's unlike visiting a museum where if we did it 2 or 3 years earlier, you saw basically the same cars. The thing about the auto show is it's new and exciting, and it's really cool. And even if you just want to catch the bus and go to New York and hang out in New York for the day, you have plenty of time to do that. We'll take you down there for that as well. What else? May 18th will be another center conversation called Racing Through the Trees, an insider's look at pro rallying. This is going to be conducted by Bob Henderson, one of our board of directors. Bob, years ago, raced in rallying, probably has more laps on the track here at Watkins Glen than anybody. And Bob has been lobbying for a couple years for us to do a program on pro rallying, so we're finally able to schedule it, and we're very excited about that as well. And then on June 27 is going to be our annual award dinner at the Corning Museum of Glass. I can't tell you who our honoree is yet. You will find that out within the next couple weeks. And let me come back to April 6th for just a second. In addition to the model car show, that will be the day when we will unveil our raffle car for this year to the public as well. And I know what it is, but I can't tell you what it is yet. But it's cool, so stay tuned for that. That pretty much takes us up to what's coming up. If you're not on our email list, there's a sign-up sheet on my desk back at the center where you can get on our email list. Samantha does a wonderful thing called the logbook, which goes out usually about the beginning of every month, and it gives you an idea what's going on at the center for the coming month. There's always something going on, and even if there isn't, you're always welcome to stop in and say hi and check out whatever cars we have on the floor or just see what's going on. To begin with the show. The genesis for the show actually started, I think, 3 years ago, when on the way to the New York Auto Show on our first trip, there was a gentleman by the name of Dan Fadden who was sitting across the aisle from me, and Dan started talking to me about this MG that he was restoring. It wasn't quite finished yet, but he had lots of pictures of it, and he showed it to me, and it's the beautiful black twin cam on the floor. And he kind of tentatively asked if, when it's finished, if we might be interested in displaying it at the center. And I, of course, always looking for cars, particularly lovely cars like that, enthusiastically responded yes. And that's what brings us all here today. Dan introduced me, I think electronically at first, to Michael Eaton, who owns the Sebring car on the floor. Michael and Kevin were terrific enough to bring that car up from Virginia on a very cold, snowy day. Dan and his brother-in-law, Randy, have the twin cam. It's been an honor and a real privilege to have both of those cars on the floor as long as we have. And they'll be here for another couple weeks anyway, so tell friends to come stop by and check them out. Anyway, that's how this whole show began. But in thinking about putting this program together, you have the iconic British sports car MG and the iconic American racetrack Watkins Glen. And the two have really been joined together since that very first race in October of 1948. The acknowledged person who started racing in Watkins Glen was a fellow by the name of Cameron Argetsinger. I'm sure all of you know that. What did Mr. Argetsinger drive in that first race? It was an MG, okay? So Cameron's love of racing and Cameron's love of the British sports car, fast forward ahead, bring us all here together 70 plus years ago. It's a great story. It's a fascinating story. And because I am not equipped to tell it, I am now going to invite Michael up on the stage. Michael's going to start us off with a history of MG racing at Watkins Glen. So thank you all for coming. At the conclusion of the program, I invite you all back to the center. We have some refreshments that will be in store for you. And also, I just wanted to point out, because I told him I would do this, we have Bob Gillespie calendars on sale. I know we're halfway through the month of February, but for the MG aficionado, 5 months out of the year feature MGs on the calendar. So we have a few of them still available for sale. So if you want to buy one of those are back at the center. So I'm done. Thank you all for coming. And I'm going to ask Michael to come up right now.
Testing? Okay, good. Well, thank you, Kip. Thank you, International Motor Racing Research Center, for having us. When I was first invited to do this, I was thinking we were just going to have it in that little room where some of us come to watch the races during the Watkins Glen weekend. I had no idea we'd have this kind of turnout, and this is fantastic, and thank you all for coming. Without further ado, I will get into this, and hopefully I'll try to talk well into this mic. I put this together a few years ago for the MGA group when we were having an anniversary of the Collier Cup race. But I wanted to cover all the history of the MG at the Glen, because as Kip stated, it started back in 1948 with that man. Cameron Argetsinger, early SCCA member and a race enthusiast. It was he that conceived of racing here at Watkins Glen. Many of you probably are already familiar with the fact that the race course initially went through right through town. That'd be Main Street, and that was the original circuit. And there's Miles Collier. I'm sorry, that is Sam Collier, and his TC special at the very first race. Sam and Miles were the very first importers of MG in America, and really helped put MG on the map here. This is Haig Kinsian, who would be the highest placed MG finisher in the first Watkins Glen Grand Prix. And what's very interesting is you'll see a street plate on this car. This car was loaned to him by Briggs Cunningham just prior to the race. Otto Linton, another very famous MG racer and name here at the Glen. And this is his very distinctive MGJ4. Very distinctive, as I've never seen such a big MG logo. Another great name from the Glen, Denver Cornet. The Cornet family comes almost every year and still brings the car. It's great to see it. Very famous story of Denver rolling it into the creek just after the Stone Bridge. They were able to retrieve it, and with another fresh set of tires loaned to him by Briggs Cunningham, he would compete in the Grand Prix. Some race notes from 1948, that very first race. There were 2 races held, 4-lap qualifying race and the 8-lap Grand Prix. Frank Griswold won in an Alpha, and the Grand Prix and the qual race. Of the 17 cars entered in the qual race, 6 were MGs. Of the 10 finishers in the Grand Prix, 8 were MGs. Haig did really well, and finished third in both events. '49 race. The success of 48 obviously led to a larger field. We had gone from 20-something to 58 cars for the 1949 race. You see here a nice flock of MGs led by this wonderful Maserati, I believe. Oh, Ferrari. I'm sorry. That is, who's that? Turn the slide. It's Briggs Cunningham's Ferrari. But look at all those MGs. Sam Collier again in his supercharged TC. This is Gus Ehrman. For those of you who know your MG lore pretty well, Gus had a very illustrious career in MG. He, very early racer, became a dealer distributor in the Greenwich area, went on to become the president of Hambro Automotive. Probably one of the biggest, between him and Dave Ash, biggest distributors of MG all time. Gus was a very early and often racer. Raced the car, the 51 Sebring car with Dave Ash that you see next door. Sebring multiple years. Gus also was a member of the BMC team that drove EX 179 on the Salt Flats. So, start of his very illustrious career with MG. John Fitch, also in that 1949 race, getting some air, and over the railroad tracks on this one. Again, for 49, there were two main races, the 4-lap qualifier, but the Grand Prix had increased from 8 to 15 laps, totaling 99 miles. Qual race winner was George Weaver in his Maserati. GP winner was Miles Collier in a Ford Riley. MGs, again, almost half of the field. John Fitch, highest placed MG at 5th overall in the Grand Prix. Sam Collier was the highest in the qual race at 3rd. Now you see, by 1950, entry list up to over 100 entrants. Also, 1953 started the Concours, which continues to this day. They have lovely cars right there at the entrance of the park. Dan's car has been on display there. My car has been on display there, and many other very fine cars have been on display there. But it stretches all the way back to 1950. This would be the entry form for Mr. David Ash, the very first time that David entered TD in 1950. And as you can see by then, we'd now expanded to 3 races. Had now the Queen Catherine Cup had been added, and that was a race for 1500 cc and under. So most MGs entered the Queen Catherine Cup in 1950. And the Queen Catherine Cup featured a Le Mans start. So there you are, running across Main Street. Dave Ash is way down here. But 50 would be a very interesting year. Here's the flying start for the, this was the Seneca Cup race. And you see those people that are aficionados of Briggs, that's Le Monster going onto Main Street. Out Main Street. And it's not the best slide, but I love it just because it just shows an MG at speed. Hitting the hay bales. That's Marsh Thomas, if any of y'all remember him. And this is, I like to say, find the MG. It's there. Leading an Allard. This is R.B. Meyer on the course. In the early days, you can tell the lack of crowd control and how dangerous things were back then. You can even see that there's a truck. They didn't get all those hay bales distributed, did they? Peter Crocker crossing the tracks. And 50 would be a neat year for this next slide. 4 MGs piled up just past Milliken Corner in the bank building. So you have Dave Ash, Gus Ehrman, Peter Crocker, and Frank O'Hare. This picture made, I think, what was the equivalent of like, it was an insert, like Life magazine type article that was run in one of the New York papers. And I think it was like Danger at the Glen. So there was tragedy that year. Sam Collier would die in a single car accident at the Grand Prix. Those who witnessed the accident did not believe it to be serious. No fire, no explosion, but his seatbelt anchors broke and he was likely crushed by the car. The innocence of the Glen was lost. Roland Keith, a longtime MG racer as well, won the first Queen Catherine Cup race in a supercharged TC. Phil Waters, Seneca Cup race in a Cad Healy. Erwin Goldschmidt, the Grand Prix in a Cad Allard. Again, MGs loom large, making up a third of the entire field. 1951 race. Got ahead of myself. You really start to see some really neat cars at the Glen. You got a racing Jowett and a Seata, and that's for those who like the Italian car lure. That's Tony Pompeo from New York. And these are typical scenes you'd see around town. I mean, now we come down and we love to see, you know, the vintage Porsches, the Healys, the things we remember. Well, back in the 50s, the early cars running around town were Bugattis, MGSAs. So things have changed. You still see some of these things, but not quite in the same, not quite the same age difference. Again, this beautiful Alfa Romeo and a proud young man holding a trophy. So I don't know what that was from, but beautiful car to see. Looks like a Morgan behind it. Another oldie in town, early Porsche. I mean, that's got to be a very early Porsche. Here's the Maserati on Main, George Weaver's Maserati. Start of the Queen Catherine Cup race. Highest MG finisher was Dave Viles. Hope I said that right. MG Leicester, who would place second overall in the Queen Catherine Cup. George Weaver in that Maserati would take first in the Seneca Cup. He would also take first in the Queen Catherine in the Le Mans Jowett. Phil Waters would win the Grand Prix in a Cunningham, and again, MG's holding at a third. 52 race would be the end of the era. That would be the last year for the street racing through town. So this is the entry form of Dave Ash and his number 46 cigar-bodied MG Special. I love this because didn't have as many hotels. Reserved room for 2 people. Miss Walter Wood, 505 Porter Street, Watkins, Glen. Accommodations for your rate accommodations, $3 per day. There's David fueling up the with his Atlantic gasoline and his MG cigar-bodied Special. Those who know early MG lore, this car would later become one of the first MG Moto cigar-spotted envelope-bodied Specials. Robert Fergus going through tech. And I just love this picture. The grin on his face, man and machine, out there on the course, just having a great time. Here David leads the grid. He'd later suffer some overheating and drop out. Nice little Seata. But you see most of the field is MG. There's an Oscar. Robert Fergus leading the Porsche. That's Milliken's corner. Seneca Cup now won by Mr. Fitch in an XK120. Queen Catherine by Bill Spear in an Oscar. And Tom Hone takes fourth in a TC. The Grand Prix unfortunately was canceled that year after the first lap in a bad accident that left one person dead and 12 injured. And the racing on the streets of downtown had come to an end. (1953) new course. Here's another entry blank from Martin Block with David Ash as driver. This would be the one of the MG Moto specials. Nice little pit card signed by Florence Smalley. Those familiar with the T-types, the 1466 displacement was the hot motor. And this is the first MG Moto to race at the Glen. This is actually not the car that was made from his cigar body special. This is one of the ones with the tubular chassis by Colombo. But very, very nice, good looking MG. That car is fully restored now and resides in Florida with Howard Banaszak. Here's two of the cars. So you can see pretty crude pits back in the day. So this is David's car here. This is the MG Moto of Fred Allen, dealer out of Rochester. Thanks, Rochester guys, for coming. Shout out to Rochester. I know you guys came in force. Again here, Fred Allen right on the front row. David Ash is back here, and they're off. Rare, beautiful color slide of Dave Ash in the Moto at speed. This car has been at the Glen. I saw this car at the Vintage Festival. This is Tom Hone's. So here we go. Doc Wiley wins the Seneca Cup in a Jag. George Moffett, Queen Catherine and Oscar. Walt Hansgen wins the Grand Prix in Jaguar. And Dave Ash placed highest third overall in MG powered in the Queen Catherine with that Moto special, bested by two Oscars. So 1954 is when the Collier Cup race first began. Miles Collier contracted a rare form of polio and passed, and the Collier Brothers Memorial Cup race was established in the brothers' honors. 36 MGs vied for the first Collier Cup race. As shown previously, Gus Ehrman, he won that first race. There he is with his mechanic friend, taking the nice Laurel Reese. So for 54, the races at the Glen had increased to 5. Seneca Cup, Collier's Brothers, Glen Trophy, Queen Catherine, and the Grand Prix. For the Collier Cup, I just spelled it out. We got Gus Ehrman, Ralph Durbin, and Bill Long. Over 200 cars now entered by 54, but still a quarter of them are MGs. (1955), and there's Fred Allen's Moto right on the cover. Typical infield shot. Now we've got some vast improvements. We've got this big starting stand and everything. But you can still see that crowd control is a little more dangerous back then. Find the TC. Right there. Behind the 550 and Mark 9 Lotus. Nice 300 SL gull wing. Actually a pair of them. Beautiful 300S Maserati. That Mark 9 again. TD. I'm sure this car is restored somewhere. You wouldn't probably throw your knockoffs and hammers on the wing anymore. The main event, the D-Type of Sherwood Johnson and the Ferrari of Duncan Black of Black & Decker fame. This car became extremely famous in my neck of the woods down in Marlboro. Duncan Black was out of Baltimore. Another early MG winner I got to meet, Dixon Warner. And this is these were just some classic photos I had to throw in there, especially the next one, what a race driver does after the race. So 55 race notes, Collier Brother results, Oakley Robinson in a TF 1500, Henry Willard in a TC, and Dick Nash in a TF. It's interesting, again, anybody from the DC area, Oakley Robinson and I'm sorry, got my Dicks wrong. That didn't come out right either. Dick Lord, I was thinking, was also from the DC area, not Dick Nash. Sherwood Johnson wins in that beautiful D-Type. And again, 250 entrants, 54 MGs. Third course, probably everybody's most familiar with. And here we get Steve Spittler getting squirrely in an MGA. This is the first year that MGAs come on the scene. It's a great corner, great picture of MGs diving in the corner. This car is actually one of the MG A Sebring cars from '56. Sherm Decker, who you will, I'm sure, hear about more later, one of the great Bark boys and multiple winners here, wins his first Collier Cup in an MGA. Dave Ash would finish second in that ex-Sebring car, and Charlie Kurtz would take third. 18 MGAs and 13 Ts compete in the Collier Cup race. 1957. Beautiful picture of Cunningham Stables. Not MG related, but it's just, you got to put that in. If you got it, you got to put it in. This is Bob Hulbert racing his Porsche, and very famous Tex Hopkins, starter here and at Marlboro for a number of years, the man in the lavender suit. Famous 029, and typical pit scene. This is actually one of the Sebring cars. I know it from the stripes and the marker. And there is Big Jake taking the victory lap in the famous 029, formerly raced as well by Mr. Joe Tierno for a number of years before now passing on to the hands of Chris Myers, who heads the MG Vintage Racers. Still in good hands and still raced to this day. Bucher again would hop into Big Jake and continue racing that day. So Bob would take 029 to the first of his, I don't know if it's actually the first of his Glen victories, but first of his Collier Cup victories. Gus Ehrman would take second place in the Collier. Ray Little third. 26 MGs would vie for the Cup. Other MGs were still entered, but there was also a new Skylar Carrera race that some MGs entered that year. 1958. This is the grid for the Collier Brothers Memorial Race. And it was very close racing that year, the closest ever at the Glen. These two guys, Mr. Bucher and Mr. Decker, would put on a show for the fans and would finish within seconds of each other right there. But Bucher would edge him out and take the laurels. Beautiful shot of that car. He becomes the first two-time winner of the Collier Brothers race, and Sherm Decker finishes second. Ross de St. Croix of Canada takes third. 19 MGAs and 4 MGT types. The 1959 Grand Prix. Our guest speaker, who we'll get to grill later, Mr. Ted Rounds, right there. And Ted, we'll have to ask you later, how did you know exactly where the camera was, huh? And TDs still being raced. This is 1959. Still going strong. That's Bobby Duell, I believe. Somebody correct me. Am I wrong? Oh, I thought Bobby used the 9 a lot. Is Bob Duell? Okay. Sherm Decker, twin cams. Twin cams join the fray. They're on the scene now. So that's Sherm Decker taking his now second Collier Brothers Memorial Race in his twin cam. 31 entrants. The twin cams swept the 3 top spots. Sherm Decker became 2-time winners. Ross de St. Croix repeats in second, and Harry Van Duzen takes third. End of an era. Collier Brothers Memorial Race becomes now a general e-production race. Hey. Western New York Center of the MG Car Club also that year presented their own, put on their own first annual MG Car Club race. And Dave Wild was kind enough to bring a very wonderful scrapbook from that event. So over in the center, when we're done, if you've got a second, over where the refreshments are, please take a look at it. It's fantastic. Here's your entry list. A lot of the people we've talked about, some other names: Art Smith, Bob Duell, Robert Poupard, longtime Bark boy, Ted Rounds, Ross St. Croix, Bob Bucher, Sherm Decker, all the who's who of MG racing back in the day. Here's a great shot of the field. Here's the 029 car. The car you see over at the center, the Sebring car, is entered right there, but now it's owned by Ted Rounds. Obviously this one's for sale. And that's Art Smith in the number 8 car. These guys would have a heck of a duel this race, Bob Bucher and Ted Rounds. You can see here Ted is ahead of Bob, but unfortunately it wouldn't stay that way. Oh. Bob would win, Ted would come in second, Bill Terrell in third, and on down from there. Actually had 2 different races. This was the Hambro Cup race. I think the other race was, it says the Hambro Cup. Oh, this is the BMC Cup grid, where Sherm Decker, who is right there, would win this race. And that's Ross de St. Croix, the nose of Ross de St. Croix's car, which you can see in better detail in that wonderful scrapbook. So Sherm would come in first, Ross de St. Croix second, and Bob Bucher would come third. Ted, down here in 5. Now these guys are obviously twin cams, so 3 of the cars So again, really, 3 of the cars above Mr. Rounds were twin cams. They came right behind Booker again. And here are the winners. That's our boy Ted, who's with us today. Bob Booker, Sherm Decker, and Ross de St. Croix. The Glen Classic also came onto the scene that year, and the Sebring car next door was entered in it by Ted. And then finally in 1960, MG Car Clubs came and ran it again. Just have a few general pictures of that race, but I did not have any results. Another win for Decker, 1960. We were hoping Dave Nicholas might make a guest appearance, but many of you know Dave, who campaigns to this day. Got back into racing with a car called Honeybee, and he's the current holder of the Collier Brothers Memorial Trophy race. He won it this past fall in a yellow MGA. This is his first MGA Deluxe that has been restored beautifully by Dan Suter here. You guys have probably seen it if you've been to the Glen. This is Dave again, 1968 Glen 100. Just threw this in there for fun at the end. This is actually one of the MGA factory Sebring twin cam cars from 1960 that Dave owned. Great shot of Decker and Poupard. Or that actually might be, is that yours, Dan? Yeah? Yeah. Okay. Again, here's this is a UMO 94. That's one of the Sebring cars. And there's Dick Powers. That's Frank Graham in one of the Sebring cars. And that's the car you'll see next door with David Ash. I was able to finish the restoration just in time for the 50th anniversary of the Collier Brothers race in 2004. Fortunately, David was still with us at the time, and I was able to get him to drive me on the reenactment laps. That's the end. Special thanks to Dave Nicholas and Bart, Joe Tierno for making sure we got that Collier Brothers race reinstituted. Late Gus Ehrman, Dave Ash, who provided so many materials, and these great reference points if you guys want to learn anything more. Thank you very much.
It's almost dinner time on a Sunday afternoon. The wives are cooking supper, and the men, some may be reading, some napping. But David Ash, well...
Calling me?
Dinner's ready. You'd better come in.
Okay.
David!
In a minute.
You come in here right now. Everything will get cold. Excuse me for not bringing dinner to the garage.
That would have been a good idea.
Do you want your bed out there, too?
I'm sorry, honey.
dinner. Any ideas?
I don't know. Would you like to go over and see Jack and Ruth?
We went there Wednesday night, remember? Ruth and I sat there excitedly twiddling our thumbs while you and Jack talked about fuel rejection.
Fuel injection.
How can two grown men talk for 3 solid hours about fuel? That's what I'd like to know. And where were you Friday night?
You know Friday night is the club meeting.
The sports car club.
I guess I'm a sports car bug, that's all.
And I'm a sports car widow.
Honey, I'm sorry. Say, how would you like to go down to Florida?
Florida? What a dream. It'd be like our second honeymoon. Oh, could we, David? How? When?
In about 2 weeks. I think I can get my vacation moved up. Here, read this.
The Florida International 12-Hour Grand Prix of Endurance for the Amico Trophy. It's a sports car race.
It's not just a race, honey.
I'm not interested.
Listen. The Florida Grand Prix is the only race of its kind in North America. It is one of the championship sports car events in the entire world. Top cars from all over the world's greatest drivers. Well?
I won't do it. I'll play second fiddle to a sports car here at home, but I'll be darned if I'll play second fiddle on our second honeymoon.
But, honey...
I will not go. You hear me? I will not. N-O-T-G-O, go.
Well, time and gentle persuasion can change almost anything. So after long weeks of David insisting and Mary protesting, we're rolling along the road from New York to Florida with Mary's car pulling the MG, all tuned and polished, trig and trim. Right now, the gas gauge signals time out for a fill-up. A fill-up and a pause to freshen up as well. Motoring along the open highway is always pleasant. And when you're on vacation and headed south for one of the most colorful and exciting races in America, well, you just can't wait to get there. At least David can. And what about Mary? Well, the excitement has affected her, too. And she signed on as a willing, if not so very able, member of the family pit crew. Soon she'll be sharing with David the hurdles to be cleared before racing day. Registration, technical inspection, a physical exam, and then grueling hours of practice and tuning. All are upcoming. This is Sebring, jam-packed with fabulous machinery. And here's an example. A baby Alfa Romeo, the lightning-fast Giulietta Spider. In motor racing, as in just about everything else, there's paperwork. In this case, registration forms. And then into the lineup for the first hurdle, technical inspection. En route, David gets his number, 51. This identifies the car as a member of the MG racing team. And now it's his turn for checkup. Running gear, seat belts, fuel tank, and particularly brakes are tested to ensure maximum protection for drivers and spectators alike. Now the coveted sticker of official approval, and David is off to another hurdle, a medical exam, just as thorough as the car inspection. David is okayed. Next, drivers, pitmen, and stewards discuss rules of the course. Meanwhile, the straightaway doubles as an airport, and an aerial visitor gets a tow from tiny Vespa scooters. The passenger on this one is Juan Fangio, world's champion. Over in the pit area, the pressure is on those unsung heroes, the mechanics. They bear full responsibility for their car's fitness, The driver, after all, has his hands full with the task of driving, and so the 1,000 nagging worries of car preparation fall on the pitmen. And worries start today with first practice. Here's another kind of practice, too. This crew is prepping for the Le Mans start, in which drivers dash across the track, leap into machines, and then drive off. And that's not as easy as it sounds. A fumbled safety belt or a foot snarled in floor pedals can cost precious seconds on the starting line. Practice is in dead earnest. Lap times are screamingly fast. Fangio posts 3 minutes, 27 seconds in the practice Corvette. And then he turns almost 2 seconds faster in his own Maserati. Last year's record was 3:29.7. The records will tumble this year. First off, the cars run clockwise in this direction, the opposite of oval tracks. Here's the main straight, going under the bridge. After 2 bends and the tower turn, we come to a chicane, followed by the S's. This is a tricky spot where an error in judgment can multiply faster than a man's reflexes can correct. Here's how it looks from upstairs. Next tough one is the hairpin, where there's nothing to do but slow down coming in, then turn up the wick and come winging out in bottom gear. Ending a straight of nearly 4,000 feet come the warehouse turns, hard right, then hard left. This one can add gray hairs too, and that's about par for this course. And this is only the beginning. A night of restless sleep is behind the drivers, and a day of thrills lies ahead for the tens of thousands of sports car fans pouring into the course. This is the morning for butterflies. This is race day, with 65 cars making the run for the coveted Amago Trophy. Favorite today is Fangio, last year's winner, mounted on a new red Maserati. But Mike Hawthorne of the Jaguar team is a good bet, as is Peter Collins of Ferrari. There are high hopes in the Corvette camp, where the new Super Sports is tuned and ready to challenge the Europeans. And now a drink of Amoco gas for these pampered babies, and still more Amoco gas into the refueling can. And now let's look around. Here's E. Forbes Robinson at left, Roy Jackson Moore center, and Ray Cuomo, all Austin Healey drivers. Texan Carroll Shelby in his famous overalls. And again, Fangio, the world champ, with Harry Schell at the right. Here's Ken Miles, California Englishman, and his co-driver, Jean-Pierre Kunstel. And 2 girl drivers for Renault, Mademoiselles Ferriard and Thirion. And here's Donald Healey, famed driver and designer of the Austin Healey, and other cars bearing his name. And this mustached young man is Jeffrey Healey. Over here is Frank Bott, Porsche driver. And here's Jack Ensley, a Jaguar pilot. Officials compare final notes, and the cars roll up to the starting line. Some pilots push their own. And coming up is driver Greenspun, trundling his Ferrari coupe. In the Le Mans start, each driver stands across track from his mount, and that's when the butterflies start working. The timing equipment in this shed gets a final check. But to waiting drivers, the minutes swell to hours as 100 pre-race preparations fall into position.
15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3,
First under the bridge is Collins, a Ferrari, followed by 2 production Corvettes. Then comes Hawthorne in the Jag as the cars get rolling. Now through the chicane and into the S's. Next, full throttle into Big Bend. These first turns of the first lap where nobody gives way are motor racing's moment of truth. Now hit the brakes for the hairpin, and then throttle again to power down Warehouse straight at full bore. The hard right, then hard left of the Warehouse turns finds the field sorting into position, with Collins still leading in his scarlet Ferrari. Behind him is Sterling Moss in a Maserati. Next is Phil Hill, the Californian, in another Ferrari. Now booming out of a right-angled bend down the north-south runway, the field screams through the first lap. There's still no sign of Jean Barra, who started Fangio's Maserati, or of the rapid new Corvette. Here's Hansgen in number 7 Jaguar, passing Duncan in number 2 Corvette. Now the slowdown for the U-turn, and into the main straight with everything pushed to the firewall. That's how it went in the first lap and the first hour, with Collins holding his Ferrari in the lead and Barra almost 16 seconds behind him. And the grind continues. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. Here comes David Ash into the pits for a fuel stop and general check on the number 51 MG. While attendants swarm over the car, David unglues himself from the seat and heads for the pit.
How's it going? It's running fine, Gus, like a dream. Just watch that corner going into the main straight. I find second gear better than third there.
How's the oil pressure holding up?
Oil pressure's fine. I think it's running a little bit hot, but you got
Hey, give me a cloth over there.
I'll get it.
Hold it, honey. You'll get us disqualified. Only 2 men in the pit.
Everything's checked, nothing's wrong, and the MG goes back into battle again, this time with co-driver Gus Ehrman at the wheel. The sun gets higher and hotter in the Florida sky as the race grinds on. The heat takes its toll, and fading brakes start to plague the leaders. The smaller cars are lapped repeatedly, and like this Renault, they move over for faster cars. Number 29, which just passed the Renault, has Chuck Hassan at the wheel. And now, leading the MG he just passed, he comes boring through the chicane. And there he goes. Now Barra, in the number 19 Maserati, leads the race. And he just cut one unbelievable lap in 3:24 and 5/10, 92 miles an hour. With Barra out ahead in a healthy lead, the two drivers alternate every 3 hours and conserve their machine as the day wears on. Behind them, the field is having its troubles with overtaxed engines, fading brakes, and drivers stricken with sunstroke. On each of these corners, brakes come in for grueling punishment. Corners are close together. There's no time for cooling. There goes Collins in number 11 Ferrari, still holding tightly to second position. Now coming up to enter the hairpin is Barra, increasing his lead with Fangio's car, number 19. Here comes Bonnier in number 22 Maserati. He has just relieved Scarlatti at the wheel of this Italian machine, one of 7 Maserati entries. Driver changes are frequent now. At the third hour, Bill Pollock, West Coast driver, relieved Lance Reventlow at the wheel of Reventlow's spanking new Maserati. And at the same time, Lou Barrow, lumberman from California, was pulled from the cockpit of his car with heat prostration, and young Maston Gregory took the wheel. Corvette Super Sports, Detroit's highest hope yet in sports car racing, has been out since shortly after 1 o'clock. 3 other Corvettes are still running strongly at the end of the 4th hour of racing, when 15 of the 65 cars have retired with a variety of ailments. And here is an example. Wiley, driver of this Lotus, is just as determined in tough luck as Juan Fangio in number 19 is with better fortune. Under the rules, drivers may receive no help on the course, so Wiley is pushing his car into the pits for repairs, which must be done with parts and tools carried in the car, plus the help of his pit crew. Mary clocks David, while Wiley's still trying. Work in the pits grows more important as darkness approaches, and the fast edge that careful preparation gives to cars is showing up even more strongly as the grind goes on. The Fangio Barra car is building its lead every lap, but the race is still wide open as the 7th hour passes. Here's 15, the Gregory Brero Ferrari, in for new rubber, and still a strong contender for one of the first 3 spots. There's warm support from this quarter as the Ferrari bounces back into the race with Gregory behind the wheel. Flagmen who line the course are especially alert now as fatigue begins to take its toll of drivers. Now with the 8th hour ending at 6 o'clock, the Works Jaguar, piloted by Mike Hawthorne, who drives with a jaunty bow tie, has made its bid to overtake the Flying Fangio. But his bid must be accompanied by racing luck, for the Argentine pilot has a 3-lap lead on the Englishman, and this is just too much of a handicap. Behind the Jaguar by a single lap is another smaller Maserati, with Sterling Moss and Harry Schell sharing the driving chores. Schell, who ranks with leading European drivers, is now at the wheel of that car. Jaguar, wearing the white and blue stripes that are American racing colors, leads a pack of cars through the hairpin. The car colors, incidentally, have a meaning. Italian entries are flaming red. British cars wear green, despite the U.S. racing superstition against that color. German cars are silver, and French machines an attractive blue. So there's a reason for color. These difficult warehouse turns look a little different from the air, but they're proving anything but simple to Lunken in number 29 Ferrari, who's due in any time now for relief. And here's David Ash coming through in the MG, still running strongly with 87 laps to his credit at the 5 p.m. count. You see, there's a reason why the smaller cars keep charging on. This is many races in one. There are winners judged in each of 9 classes, depending on engine size. Oh, watch for a moment now as one driver gives a wave off to a car trying to pass him without possible clearance. In addition, there's a separate contest for index of performance, judged on a handicap based on engine size. Second place Jaguar. And as night approaches, in comes the number 27 Maserati of young Lance Raventlow for tires and fuel. There's a driver change, a general check, and over in a nearby pit, Hawthorne's number 5 Jaguar goes back to the fray. Hawthorne's hot for that second position, and he hopes to make up time during the tough hours of the night, where he's an old hand with years of experience in the 24-hour endurance race at Le Mans. Back at the warehouse turns, we find number 7, the Hansgen Boss Jaguar, dicing with 45, a Porsche, driven pell-mell by Ken Miles, who makes a specialty of chewing on tailpipes. This is a classic example of the Miles spooking technique. And now the picture changes. The lights-on signal has been given. These are the most dangerous minutes of the day, as drivers fight to adjust their eyes to the darkness after more than an hour of squinting into the setting sun. Illuminated only by the headlights of their cars. Fangio still holds his lead during these final hours of night racing, and he's almost sure to break records. Hard-driving Hawthorne has lost second place to Sterling Moss and Harry Schell. They'll make it a 1-2 win for Maserati if luck holds out. And there's the signal, ending the 12-hour grind. Here come the headlights of fabulous Fangio and his victorious number 19. He's greeted in the winner's circle by Donald J. Smith, president of the American Oil Company. This makes 2 straight at Sebring for the world champion, and he rates those orange blossom laurels. He's calling excitedly for Jean Barra, the doughty Frenchman, who gained the early lead and then turned it over to Fangio for improvement. The network announcer seems to be having scant luck with the winner, but he is trying. Now the crowd is parting to make room for Barra. And here he comes to share the honors and the orange blossoms. He'll be rejoicing back in Italy, too, where Maseratis came home first and second, and other Italian cars took 4th, 6th, and 7th places. Celebration is the keynote in Florida tonight. This pair really earned that coveted Amoco trophy. They tumbled 3 records: fastest lap, best average speed, and longest distance covered in 12 hours. Next morning, with race grime scrubbed off, David, Ash, and Mary start home. They finished second in their class, and that's not bad for a man, his wife, and a little production motor car.
Never mind, honey. We'll win the Amoco trophy some other year.